Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our agriculture show, Ag Life. It's actually episode number 10. I'm Gerard Lampow, and on the menu, we chat with the recipients of this year's Cattlemen of the Year award. Kelly Sidoryk shares on holistic management, plus a local producer contrasts watering systems. But first, the word sounds invasive and scary, but when it comes to cattle, it's the next logical step to position the industry in a changing marketplace. I meet an auditor who has also been audited.
Thanks very much.
When cattle producers get together for annual meetings, it's a good time to talk about changes facing the industry.
Verified Beef is a nonprofit group, so we're just here to implement the program.
Tina Leverton ranches with her family near Outlook. They have about 70 cow-calf pairs. The drought has made it difficult for them, and they will be moving some of their cows. She's also an auditor with VBP+.
When it's audit time, someone like me would come out to the farm, and we go over the records that the farmer would keep, and we look at their facilities and their cattle, and we sit down and talk about all kinds of important issues, and then I submit my findings back to COI.
When Saskatchewan ranchers do the online program, they can get in touch with the Cattlemen's Association, who will then send out an auditor to do the verification process.
And verified beef was developed so that producers could actually then prove it.
That's Coy Schillenberg, who is the point man in the process at Saskatchewan Cattlemen's Association. The auditing process is not scary. Leverton has had her place audited as well. The process involves the data which producers are already collecting.
Treatment records are a big thing. We want to make sure that any animals that are getting treated stay on the farm until their withdrawals are over, so that we're producing a safe product for the consumer. And that's something that a lot of producers are doing all the time. And the audit process is just another pair of eyes validating that we are indeed doing what we're saying we're doing.
Auditors like Leverton are reassuring and encouraging fellow producers to sign up for Verified Beef Plus as the industry moves towards greater sustainability and positioning their product to meet consumer demands.
It's a conversation around your coffee table, and it's more conversation outside. It's not painful at all, because like I said, a lot of our producers are doing an excellent job already, so we're just validating that.
And it's time now to roll off our events calendar. If you want to get in on this part of the show, you just have to email me, glampow@newcap.ca. So let's have a look at some upcoming events. And still to come, Alberta beef producers are wrapping up their check-off voting. Do stay with us.
This segment of Ag Life is brought to you by Webb's Machinery. Webb's Machinery, your New Holland dealer in Vermilion, Vegreville, and Lamont.
Well, it's a very prestigious award for any family to get in the Midwest region. With Stockade Roundup in its 40th year, I meet the recipients of this year's Cattlemen Award.
Remembered him in a wheelchair all the time.
They're joining a tradition going back some 32 years. The Dow family, and especially the late Willard Dow, had to overcome some major hurdles and are being recognized as the 2018 Cattlemen of the Year.
Well, if you come to working on machinery, helping to fix something, he would say, well, you can do it.
That was the attitude of Willard Dow, who married Margaret in 1953 on a hospital bed. He had contracted polio and did all his ranching and farming in a wheelchair.
Well, it was a big change for him and for both of us because we had planned on moving here to the farm that he had bought in 45. And as it turned out, well, he had spent a lot of time in the iron lung and time in the hospital in Saskatoon. And
The couple had 7 children. Stephen and Daryl manage the cattle.
You crossbreed, right? Because we were in the commercials. And we crossbred to limousines, and we did some Charolais. And
Dale does the spraying and grain marketing and the elevator. David does machinery. In 2002, they bought the Sasqueet Pool elevator in Marsden. That's the time the drought and the BSE crisis hit. They did not sell any of their cattle. In the Lone Rock Unity areas, some 27 family members have been active in the 4-H beef programs. Mom Margaret, who milked 12 cows and sold cream back in the day, kept the family going.
of course, the family farm, all farming together and getting along together. What can anybody ask for?
A tremendous honor indeed, the Dow family of the Unwin Road area. Well, Alberta beef producers are voting in a plebiscite across the province to decide whether or not their check-off dollars should be non-refundable. I attended the recent meeting of District 8 in Kitscoty.
You guys can ask me any question you want.
Well, if the vote is yes, the money will go towards an industry development fund and as well split between Alberta beef producers and Alberta cattle feeders.
Roughly $1.35 will come to the Alberta beef producers, which is exactly what we retain now after refunds. So we won't actually get any more in our organization per se. The Alberta cattle feeders will get 25 cents per marketing, so that amounts to about $850,000 to do with what they need to do to operate their organization. 40 cents will go into the newly developed Alberta Beef Industry Development Fund.
It's estimated the fund will benefit from about $1.4 to $1.7 million annually. The money will go to beef industry research and improvements, one of the big issues being consumer perceptions.
Well, we talked a little bit tonight about our sustainability projects that we're working on with McDonald's and the Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. Canada was a founding, is on the cutting edge of that initiative. We'll keep working on that. We'll keep getting people trained through the Verified Beef Plus program.
If producers vote no, there will be no change. Voting closes November 13th, and Zone 8 put forward a resolution that Alberta beef producers move to a single-point check-off. Resolutions will be tabled at the December AGM that's happening in Calgary. Getting quality water is key to a good start for our furry friends. I find out that quality water for livestock is a sound investment for another reason.
So a couple years ago, Mark McNinch and I started a small retail business we call Micmac Ranching.
Trent McNabb and his family have about 350 cow-calf pairs, mostly Black Angus. Together with Union Forage, they had the chance to market some forage seed. They have expanded into minerals for the cattle and solar water tubs.
It's a dugout that was dug in a low, kind of swampy area a few years ago, and he's fenced it off so that the cattle can't have access to the dugout. It pumps into a trough.
Ensuring quality water is important for health and nutrition. It begins with keeping the cows out of the slough.
They're not spending as much time walking in it. Possibly if they have full access to it, they have a chance of urinating in it or anything like that. So increased chance of disease. If the water's pumped, it's a little bit fresher.
By reducing illness, the animals gain better body condition. McNabb says the calf gains will pay for the cost of the system over time. His second system pumps water from a well into a trough. This, however, is connected to the grid and serves his cow-calf pairs in the spring. He has seen another benefit.
With that dugout and this one down here, the grass around the dugout and the edges stays vegetative and grown up, so when the snow melts or the rain runs off and runs into the dugout, it has a chance to run through that vegetation, and it's cleaner actually going into the dugout as well as coming out of the dugout.
Cutting down on sickness with calves in the springtime saves producers a lot of headaches. Some of his numerous projects have benefited from the Growing Forward newly renamed CAP programs.
It was around $30,000, but with the Growing Forward program, about $14,000 was paid for. So at that cost, you can justify it pretty quickly. And
of course, quality water helps to put a good steak on your plate. Well, when we come back, Kelly Sidoryk focuses on holistic farm management. Do stay with us. Thanks again for choosing Ag Life, episode number 10. Well, Lloydminster's Kelly Sidoryk tells us about the holistic management sessions that she's presenting in St. Paul. But first, some more on her agriculture roots.
Well, I come from a family cattle operation just west of town, and we've transitioned a lot and grown over the years. And the different activities and projects that we've gotten involved in have led us down some interesting paths. So not only do I work in that operation, but I also work with farm families in different planning and goal setting, and most importantly succession planning issues, which as you know is becoming more of a concern these days. It is, because the average age of the farmers, I believe, is in the early 60s. So, you know, in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of operations that need to figure out how they are going to move into the next generation. And I've had the benefit or the gift of being able to work through that process with our own family. And so now I really enjoy helping others to look at that and work through the different situations, because there's a lot of opportunities out there, and there's a lot of enthusiastic young people coming in. So going through different processes to figure out how to do that is great.
It's great indeed. The workshop that you're setting up in the Lakelands, when is that coming off firstly there?
It starts, I think, on the 16th of November, goes for 3 days, and then we take a break and then go for 3 more sessions. So that it's a 6-day workshop altogether, but with a break in. Yes, yes.
That's fairly intense. What are you hoping to achieve? Because folks hear holistic management and that conjures all kinds of things in folks' minds there.
Yes, yes. Well, essentially what it is a decision-making process that involves the land and the livestock, the finances, and the people. So we try to put it all together in a whole, hence the name, and recognizing that everything is interconnected, and it's important for us to take that into account and create that desired outcome and vision as a team to move towards that. So there's different components in it that we look at with the ecosystem and the planning processes and goal setting. So yeah.
Yeah. Some of the things that intrigued me, of course, and folks, this will resonate with producers right away in terms of the bottom line, financial goal setting, to make the profits. And some folks even can run an operation and don't even know their cost of production.
Yes, yes, and certainly in these times that is so important. But another piece of it is not only making that plan, but also once you've put it together, monitoring it. Because if you just put it together and then, you know, show it to the banker and throw it in the filing cabinet, that's no good. We got to keep monitoring it on a regular, hopefully monthly basis. So we put a projection together that says, you know, what's our planned income, and then think of what we want for a profit out of that, and then what can our expenses be. So really kind of looking at it from a different angle. Instead of is there anything left over for a profit, we really try to plan for a profit and then have it on a monthly basis so we can monitor to see if we're on track or off track. Of course, the plan changes, as it always does.
Yes.
You know, dealing with Mother Nature and people, it you know, it never goes exactly as, but it's an important tool, I think, as we try to move forward with our operations, you know, from the level of communication that everybody knows what's going on with the farm, and then trying to figure out, you know, that's a basis of the transition piece too.
Yeah. And then you've got to build in there, you say monitoring, you got to build in there that mechanism to switch it up.
Yes, absolutely.
Because otherwise you end up running the train on the same track, and you don't have a fallback position to deal with Mother Nature.
Yes, yes. So having that contingency piece built in, and that isn't only on the financial side, but on the human side as well, because we need to be prepared for things changing, because they will, for sure. You know, there's no doubt that they're going to. So.
What else are you going to be looking at in that holistic management program out there?
So we do the piece about coming together and talking about paradigm shifts and thinking about, you know, the thinking that got us where we are today. If we want to change, we need to look at things differently.
Right.
And then also looking at our ecosystems. So we talk about the water cycle, the mineral cycle, the amount of energy we're capturing, and the different community and the level of complexity in that. And then there's different principles that we talk about with the decision making. So one of the first ones is, you know, what's the weak link in our enterprise, and look at it on different enterprises, because the idea is that's what we need to focus on first, is the weakest link, and there's no point in spending time and money in other links if we haven't got that key one figured out. And it's a moving target, it changes.
Are you able to get around, because some folks may say, might be in denial, and they say, I don't have any weak link in my operation.
Well, I mean, many times the weak link is, you know, the human component of it too. So, but yeah, you know, I guess it's a matter of questioning too, and we also like to be really inclusive, so that, you know, kids and other family members are involved, because they often see things differently, and it's valuable to have that, to include that other piece of human creativity.
What's the contact information for the holistic management? Let's see if we knock this out of the park here.
Okay, well, if we, LARA, so the Lakeland Applied Research Association, Kelly Nichaporek is the contact for that.
Let's get about that succession planning, because you're saying even in there getting the kids involved, and sometimes there's that resiliency of dad holding on. There might be
resistance, I think, is, yes.
Yeah, siblings in the mix as well, wanting to have their input.
Yes, yes. And so the first piece of that is sitting down and trying to, as a group or entity, talk about, well, what do we want this place to look like in 5 years, 10 years, and recognizing that in that point in time, things are going to be changing. The founders of Mom and Dad aren't going to be as actively involved, and trying to help them. I think another important piece of it is recognizing that us in different generations have some unique characteristics that are different from the ones ahead and behind, and talking about that a little bit. And not only that, but our different personality styles, you know, about trying to work together and the value in that. But, you know, it's a piece for everybody, I think, of, you know, really respecting where the other generation is coming from, and but acknowledging that it's not going to be the same as it once
Going
was.
forward here.
Yes, and that's hard for founders to let go of.
Yeah. It's hard in a lot of family dynamics, because sometimes well, honestly, in family dynamics, the emotions can be fierce. And how do you, what can you say to negotiate around all of that here?
Well, one of the things that I think is super important is that these kind of conversations happen when there isn't a crisis going on. Because, as you know, when there is a crisis, emotions are elevated, and that makes all those conversations much more difficult. You know, if you're sitting around the table and one of the chairs is empty, that's hard. That's very hard. So doing it ahead of that is so much easier. I think it's important for the couples in the different generations to have some independent conversations about how they want things to happen, and then be able to come as a whole family together. And then, of course, this is a little bit of a bias, but having a third party that's neutral to come in and kind of ask the important questions really makes it so much easier. It's hard for a member of the family
to be that neutral party.
Yes, because you can't be, because you have have different roles in the operations.
Kelly Sidoryk there chatting about holistic management and the transition process, trying to have that happen without a crisis. Well, when we come back, the focus switches to nutrition. Ag Life continues after this break. Ag Life episode number 10. Well, knowing what goes on your plate begins with meeting the nutrition needs of livestock. I meet with area producers as they learn about the latest options on the market.
We raise beef, and that end of it, having the right minerals and stuff in cattle, really benefits our calving time.
Brad Van Meter owns Paradise Hill Ranch and Western Wear and ranches in the area. He invited the MasterFeeds rep Kurtis Reid, who ranches near Saskatoon, to share on nutrition. Reid says nutrition is important to livestock for the overall health and gains of animals.
The other reason it can become very important is just due to economics. Are we feeding cattle to reach their genetic potential while keeping it within a budgetary standpoint?
Producers are switching their attention to getting their cows and cattle ready for winter.
Nutrition for pregnant cows, backgrounding heifers, bulls, steer calves. So just in terms of what you've touched on already with cows, we do try and feed cows slightly different pre-calving to post-calving. Pre-calving, we're maintaining body weight, making sure they're in adequate body condition, so there's usually a condition scoring system.
Post-calving requires another set of supplements to support the postpartum and milk production.
Ranchers are some of the most caring people in the world in terms of what they're looking after, so any time of the year where we feel cattle need that little extra boost, that's where there's people like I can help.
Producers as well left the meeting with a tremendous knowledge boost.
So having them on the right mineral program really makes a difference for calving geese.
Well, that's a wrap on Ag Life. Remember, if you've got a comment or story idea, we'd certainly love to hear from you. So we're going to put up our contact information. tvnews@newcap.ca. That's one place that you can reach us. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter as well. We're also on Instagram, but tvnews@newcap.ca. You can also write me directly at Lampow@newcap.ca, or as well, you can send us mail. We at 5026 50th Street, Lloydminster, Alberta, T9V1P3. Coming up on our next show, of course, we'll bring you some more of the interaction and the excitement from this year's Stockade. I'm Gerard Lampow. Take care.